Hello and good morning and welcome to this week's webinar on CloudMyServer, or in our industry terms, infrastructure as a service. That's what IaaS stands for. And this is just a simple form of that, but we're going to be covering that and how you can basically have a serverless office. My name is Robert Trimbath. I'm Vice President of Technology Services for Quasar Data Center. I'll be your host today. Just for your information, we are recording this webcast and we'll be presenting it later on our website. Any of the Q&A will be edited out at the end for copyright purposes. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about where kind of the old school versus the new school sits. So today, and I've included a few photos just to give you an idea of some of the rooms we've run across in our in my 28 years of experience in the city, and I've been doing this for a long time for small business, and my former company merged with Quasar beginning of last year because we're basically seeing a trend, and we know this trend is growing fast. Servers are no longer going to be needed in offices, especially for companies up to at least 100 employees. There's just no need for it. There's no need for the expenses, nor the typical maintenance and concerns that govern that, as well as the expenses. So let's kind of talk about the old school versus new school. So if some of you may recognize or have a situation similar to these first two pictures, the one on the left and the one in the center, these are pictures of actual server rooms that used to be in clients where they put it in a closet, a bathroom, a storage area. They're unair conditioned. They leave the doors closed, so they basically, you walk into that room and it's in the 90s. It's like a sauna, and they become dust collection projects. They're just really bad situation for servers and network equipment in general. They're using UPSs. Those are uninterruptible power supplies. Most people have them on their servers. If they don't, that's really, really bad. But they're usually using the wrong types. They're using smaller ones that are meant, like the one you can see on the ground here next to the picture on the right. This is a UPS. It's actually meant for a desktop, not for a server. And as you can see, these servers are merely they're very small. This one on the left is actually a desktop. The one on the two on the right are servers. One's actually a NAS, the other's a server. But you can see how the stuff is just stacked here. You really can't tell what it is. They're right up against the wall, which is really bad because there's no ventilation. In the middle, this is kind of one that's grown over time, and they're actually putting storage stuff around it. Again, servers backed up to the wall. You can see some additional equipment over here in this room where they actually have a rack, and this is just a mess, and it's a hazard waiting to happen. Somebody comes in there for storage, trips on a cable, does something, pulls a server off a shelf, takes the whole company offline. There's just so many things. And we have a lot of things to worry about here in Houston environmentally that affect it. Now, I don't know about you, but I would feel a lot better knowing that my data was in this picture on the right, knowing that my servers were built and maintained on something that looks like this picture on the right. Well, this is our data center, and this is it's not our data center specifically, but it's a depiction. Ours is very similar. I do have pictures of our data center, but this is what a data center typically looks like, and this is how this is the type of equipment: neat, clean, air conditioned, redundancies. You can have those kind of things for your business. These were originally designed for enterprise, but there's no reason why you as a small business can't benefit by those advantages now. And I'm going to explain to you how with a product we call CloudMyServer, and we're going to talk about how that works, and we're going to talk about what it does for you. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about factors that affect servers, having your server on site. Well, of course, we know what happened with Harvey. These are actually, the one on the left here is a picture of Harvey from last year, this one here, both the before and after of that area, just to give you an idea. And we know that it affected 80% of our city. It was very big. In fact, I think it took over a month or two for just freeways and traveling around the city to become actually somewhat normal again. And there are still businesses and people living with the after effects of Harvey. In fact, more small businesses closed due to Harvey than any other event in Houston, even Ike. So let's also talk about factors like wind. This one is the one in the middle is a business affected by wind damage, and of course fire. If you're in a multi-tenant building, we had actual true story. We had a client about 8 years ago who was affected by a fire in a building over in Park 10. They were on floor 4. Client on floor 2. Someone stuck a metal popcorn container in a microwave and caused a microwave fire. They actually were evacuated from the building, and when they came back the next morning, they had a sign on that the building was closed until further notice. Well, further notice turned out to be 6 months, and it was extremely damaged due to smoke damage to the building. It was 6 months before it was cleared for reentry, and we had to relocate their IT assets to a co-location facility, a data center, much like what we're going to be talking about today, and had to be relocated back afterwards. And I can tell you right now that that is a cloud client now. They no longer have servers on site as a result of those learning experiences. And of course, so we're going to talk about weather events, things we talked about, power events, and lack of proper power. So we do have a lot of power events due to the heat we get here in the summers. We have brownouts, and most people don't use the proper UPSs for their server equipment to protect against that, what's called AVR, or automatic voltage regulation. So what that means is that the UPS will use power in the batteries to compensate for undervoltage when brownouts are detected, to make sure that the server gets the right amount of voltage. And if it extends too long, it can actually it can ruin and cause the UPS to terminate prematurely, and it's mainly because it's not meant to operate on an extended period of time. It's meant to cover temporary or small brownouts and overvoltage. We also have to worry about internet outages that can prevent remote access. Most companies now have, almost all of them have a degree of employees that work remotely, or owners that access infrastructure remotely at their offices. Internet outages are far more common for small business than any other vertical, and mainly it's because of the service level of service that you're getting, or guarantee of service that you're getting from your provider. For instance, if you're a Comcast customer and you are getting coax, your service over coax, the service is very cheap and very reasonable, but their time to restore on that, there's no guaranteed time that they have to fix those outages by. Where as an example, if you were to use Cogent or Comcast Fiber, that medium carries a 4-hour delivery window. In other words, they have to fix and address it within a 4-hour window. So it's a lot different. More expensive, but a lot of businesses are not taking advantage of that and don't realize that even now, with new phone service being over voice, including Comcast's own phone service, when the internet goes out, so do your phones. And that becomes a new issue altogether. People haven't taken into consideration, and a lot of them don't even realize that. Issues with the physical building, we just talked about: fire, wind, storm, overheating, and improper server environments, like I showed you before. Putting servers in closets, no improper ventilation, lack of air conditioning dedicated to those rooms, and all those things cause premature equipment failure. There's actually, you'd be surprised, the number one cause of data loss in equipment failures is not what you would think it is. Servers, improperly maintained is in the top 3, but actually one of them is the largest is failed hard drives and desktops and laptops. That's because nobody backs them up. And that's another topic for another day we can talk about with desktop as a service, and something I would definitely recommend you look at as a business. We offer it. But right now we're talking about your servers and how to replace and never have to deal with a server. You don't have to maintain it. You don't have to have it in your office. You don't have to deal with the stress of making sure that it's safe, it doesn't get stolen, it doesn't get damaged, and it's not affected by the things that affect us here in Houston. So let's talk about the cloud impact. It's a better return on investment for you. So what we're talking about is taking your server and clouding it. And what I mean by clouding it is we will migrate it to an enterprise infrastructure at our data center, and that's what we mean by the cloud, and create a link between it and your office that allows you to operate as you normally would. We don't change your data. We don't change how it operates. It just is on enterprise level hardware with all the redundancies and protections, backup, disaster recovery you get at a data center built in. You no longer have to pay extra for those things. So let's talk about it. You pay for what you use, so you're only paying for the disk space you use. If you've got if you got 2 terabytes of storage and you're only using 250 gigs of it, well, you're only paying for the part. You're only paying for as much as you use, which generally is about what you use plus about 25% for growth. So if I'm using 500 gigs, you're going to be paying for probably about 625. So you have some room for growth as you go, and expanding that is easy. If you foresee yourself growing fast or need additional space, it's just a simple allocation where they don't even have to take the server down. They just allocate more space and it's instantly available to you. It's a pay for what you eat kind of thing. The costs are lower, more predictable. You get to shift your costs of instead of buying servers and having those as capital expenses, they now become an operational expense, which is completely tax deductible. So you get some tax advantage to that. And it's a lot faster for us to deploy servers in the cloud than it is deploying them on site, because we already have, once we move your server in, upgrades, maintenance of those things are automated and it takes care of them. We don't have to worry about the backups for those. That entire storage structure is snapshotted hourly, so you will never have to worry about losing more than an hour's worth of data ever, and that's built into the solution. And we have some other things built into it we're going to talk about a little bit later, like business continuity. That's an option you can do. Reduce management. So the patching, maintenance, all that's handled by our team, and you do not see downtime as a result of that. They schedule that stuff for after hours, handle it. You don't really see any downtime as a result of that. The faster deployment part just means as you grow, if you need more space, more things, adding resources, that infrastructure is instant, like adding RAM. It's not something you got to go to the store and pay somebody to put in. Adding RAM storage is simply just a click of a few buttons for us. You're getting multi-layered security, so you're getting basically infrastructure level security, firewall. You're getting infrastructure level antivirus and anti-malware, anti-root kits, as well as endpoint protection. Reliability and fault tolerance, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later, about what the data center offers, what you don't get by having your server in your office. Everything is fault tolerant, and the fact that everything's redundant to our system. Power, connectivity, the environmental controls on the facility. We'll talk about that in a minute. Increased productivity. So when you have an environment that's always up, in fact, we guarantee it 99.99% uptime in our service level agreement, that means that everybody works. Everybody's able to work. You don't have to worry about those things encroaching on your work time during production hours. If you choose to, we can also move your email over into an Office 365 Internet Collaboration Suite. That's something we do as well. The beauty about this is remote access is always up, so it isn't dependent on what's going on at your office. Lack of power, lack of connectivity, because the data center is always live. So that means you're going to be able to access your solution, and again, that's on our pipe, and I guarantee you're going to be operating on our big 25 gig triple mix pipe. So access to that is going to be fast, it's going to be quick, and it's going to now allow your business to operate more productively. And again, what I talked about earlier, instant self-provisioning. So basically, as you need more resources, those things can be provisioned easily and quickly. So what is a cloud? What's in the cloud platform? So let's kind of talk about what's in the cloud platform. So what we do is we will actually take your server, We have a program that will migrate it live, and we will install software and actually migrate your existing server as it sits down into a virtual platform and into our cloud platform. So it's a freestanding server, that, a virtual server of its own. You're the only one that has access to it. We create a link to it. So all your storage, your applications, everything like they exist now are in our cloud on this virtual environment. So we create a link. You can access it directly by accessing it through the data center through a public IP, or in most cases, we create a VPN between your office and that environment, so it works just like it did when it was sitting in your building. The difference is when you're outside the office, you would actually access it through the data center and not through your office. Your connectivity to your office does not matter in the remote access side anymore. You get the full reliability and uptime of the data center. So let's talk about the built-in backup and disaster and business continuity side of clouding your server. So when you cloud your server, we store your server resides in enterprise class NetApp infrastructure, which is it's an enterprise device that's a combination of solid state, SAS, and SATA drives. It stores your equipment in an optimal environment, in a redundant environment. And so we have our main data center here in Houston. We have another in Dallas, and everything that's here is snapshotted to Dallas on an hourly basis with what we call on-demand resources there. So we have on-demand servers there that are there, ready to spin up. If something was to happen to Dallas, it would fail over, or Houston, it would fail over to Dallas. There'd be no change on your part in accessing it. It would just simply fail over up there. Those machines would spin up in a matter of minutes, and your entire environment would be up in Dallas. That is an extra charge. It's optional to have that, but it's very low cost. Your cost to have that feature added to that service is about $100 a month. That's it. And you will have the peace of mind to know whatever happens in Houston, doesn't matter. Everything you have is going to be up and running in Dallas in less than an hour, even if Houston fell off the map. Now, we've never been down in the history of our company, so that's not going to be an issue. But in case it is, that's why it's there. What we call quick spin disaster recovery is just simply the servers are there. So our infrastructure in Houston is mirrored in Dallas. They're not up and running unless we need to actually access them to do it. So in the case Houston goes offline, those services, those servers spin up and access that infrastructure, and your data snapshot is less than an hour old, no more than an hour. So basically, if it happened within 15 minutes of the last snapshot, there's going to be a 15-minute difference between your data and what's in Dallas. So why is cloud better? Why is cloud growing? It's growing phenomenally because it allows you to put your critical data and IT infrastructure in a secure environment that's accessible from anywhere. You get guaranteed uptime, which you'll never get. You're never going to have that kind of uptime with an in-office solution ever. I don't care who you are. If somebody's telling you that, they're lying to you. I've been doing this 28 years, and I can tell you that there's not a single in-office solution, no matter how much you invest in it, that is going to be nearly even come close to the uptime of a data center. Built-in hourly backups, as I indicated, with instant data recovery. So if something should happen to where something is lost, you just have to contact support, which is 24/7, 365. Our people, our data center. Not something we lease, not something we're getting from Amazon or Microsoft. It is our data center, owned and controlled by us 100%. We have redundant power, connectivity, and infrastructure control. So let me kind of talk about that for a minute. We sit on two separate power grids. That are independent of each other. We have actually independent power from our building. So even if our building was to go out, it wouldn't affect our data center because our power contracts are independent of the building. Our connectivity, we have a triple mix between Cogent, Comcast, and NTT. But we have many other providers in the building, in our suite. Those are just the three we put together in our redundant mix. So that way, if anyone goes out, there is no loss of connectivity, no downtime to any of our clients. The infrastructure, the air conditioning, all that is redundant. The UPS is redundant, and with diesel generators on the roof that can power us for 3 weeks. We've never had to go on generator power ever at this point. We can completely eliminate your need to buy server hardware ever again and get rid of any ongoing upgrade costs because we handle that on our side. You are basically leasing from us the ability to run on our equipment, and we guarantee that our equipment is going to perform and give you the kind of performance you need and give you that maximum uptime. So you never have to worry about messing with that again. Now, you are responsible for the server OS. There are options that we can do that can do away with that for you, where that is a different type of service where we manage that and include the operating system. But in this thing, we're just taking your existing server and we're moving it into enterprise cloud hardware where you can access it from your office just like you do now, and give you the reliability, eliminate the hardware question. It's still up to your IT company or us, if you choose to go that route, to manage the operating system on it. But we take care of the hardware side and make sure that you're never going to have to deal with hardware failures, hardware issues, and we're going to manage those backups for you because that's done at the infrastructure level and is totally independent of the operating system. We give you that optional business continuity to maximize your uptime at a very, very low cost. So what are the real savings? Let's kind of talk about the money side of it and how it helps. So one, you got lower setup costs. With infrastructure as a service, once it's up, it's up. You're never going to have to mess with that again. And the cost of getting it there is very low compared to setting up a new server environment, because we have software that will live migrate through the internet or to a external device your server as it is now without any changes to it. So we're not making any changes to how your server operates. We're just relocating it to better hardware. We include 24/7, 365 support of all our services, which means we have people on site at the data center 24/7 to take phone calls, to answer your emails, and everything is ticketed and monitored by tier 2 and tier 3 support. You're going to get rock solid reliability and accessibility. So things like server maintenance that you normally would have to pay for hardware maintenance, things like that, no longer a cost. The built-in backup and disaster recovery, well, most people are paying, and for antivirus, things like that, people are normally paying for that stuff as a separate service. That is no longer needed. It's included in the service with a business continuity option that's not even available to you by having stuff on site. It's just not even an option. It's a fixed monthly cost. So basically, your fee is always going to be the same to us to maintain that server, period. It's not going to change. It's going to be the way it is. And your only real growth factor is how much disk space you use and how much RAM you use. So as your business grows, those things can be added on demand, but they're very minimal costs compared to buying new servers and having to go through replacement upgrade costs. So this will actually scale with your business fast and very well and without downtime. The monitoring and management of those servers is included. So if we see something going on with that server, we're going to be able to let you know. We're going to be able to tell you, hey, this is, we can take care of it. That is something you also have to pay somebody else to do usually, and this is included in what we do. And there's usually an upfront and monthly cost involved with that. So we eliminate all those typical costs associated with getting it running, maintaining it, upgrading it. All those things are included and disappear as a cost to you from now on. And by the time you factor all those things in, you're actually end up on the saving side of things. So let's talk about how easy it is to cloud a server. So we first get in, we'll have our deployment engineer, we'll look at your server, see what you're running. Now, if you're running an older operating system like Windows 2000, 2003, something that's not supported anymore, I believe Windows 2008 and above is what we will work with as far as server-related software. And it is not supported anymore. A lot of people are still running it. I believe that's the oldest we can go is Windows 2008, which is literally 11 years old now. You should be running something like Windows Server 2012 or Server 2016 or the current release that's hitting now, which is 2019. We have a software that we do that's from VMware, and it will basically copy your server in real time up to our cloud through the internet. Or it can be done to an external drive if it's a very large amount, like into the terabytes. It's usually more efficient to do that. We will put it up in our environment, test it, make sure it's 100% functional. Then we will create a VPN from there to from your office to the data center, so we can test connectivity between the two. We test printers, scanners, make sure everything's working the way it was when it was at your office, and then we schedule a cutover date in which we will turn off your old server and remove it from the network, and then we will configure or show whoever is available or needs remote access. We will get that set up for them. We have the ability to either remote into people that are in other locations and reconfigure that for them, or if it's an owner who's got a device that he wants to get done, we can do it right there on site. But that's how it works. It's as simple as it is, and this is usually done in a 2 to 3 week period from start to finish. It's not a big deal. We've done a lot of these. We provide, to give you an idea, we do this type of service for Midland College with an 1,100 user environment, and all their server infrastructure is hosted in our data center. And we have some redundancies built in to help them when they got flooded out during Harvey. This was something we helped them put into place. So there's a lot of really great advantages to having your stuff at a data center in the cloud, and give you a peace of mind to your business that you didn't have before, because you don't have to worry about what's going on at my office, whether I got power, whether I'm connected, whether the air conditioning's running in the summer, or simply somebody walking off and stealing it. If that was to happen, how long would it take for your business to go out of business? Somebody walked out the door with your server or took a sledgehammer to it. Believe it or not, some of the biggest risks come from employees that are ex-employees that are disgruntled. So let's talk about the advantages. This is a picture of our actual building. We're in the Benz building downtown at 1001 Texas. That's at the corner of Texas and Main. We are on the third and fourth floor of that building. We have the entire third floor and the fourth, where our dedicated private access for clients that actually have a entire area of the data center they want. So we have facilities on both floors. It is a SSA 16 Type 2 certified facility. What that means is we are independently audited every year for our physical security, our cybersecurity, our redundancies, and certified to be HIPAA and PCI compliant. And that also means our employees are background checked, the whole thing. We are a Tier 3 capable facility. We have 24/7 operational and technical support on site all the time. We are a cloud services provider, which means we have our own proprietary solution that's engineered for small business. We do not, small to medium business. We do not actually license or resell anything from Amazon or Microsoft Azure's cloud. It is in our data center, controlled and owned 100% by us. We do use their technologies like VMware and Microsoft servers and such, and our expertise is in Microsoft, Linux, Solaris. I see we got a spelling error there. It's definitely not Linus. Forgive me. I'm a good engineer and a terrible speller. Citrix, VMware, and Checkpoint, and as well as WatchGuard security technologies. We are a Tier 1 point of presence provider, or POP, and we're carrier neutral with over 40 providers in our suite. As I told you, we carry a triple mix for network redundancy, which is NTT, Comcast, and Cogent, with a 25 gig dedicated triple mix pipe that all our clients go through. If you have a preference or want to do a cross connect to another carrier, we offer that. So because of the amount of carriers that go through our space, we connect with virtually everybody. So we can actually provide a one-time cross connect fee, and it's a lot cheaper than actually having the bandwidth. Thermal redundancies, we have backup and primary thermal systems. What that means is the air conditioning and climate control systems. There are two of them, the primary and the secondary. Most of our secondary is located on the fourth floor and is redundant to our third. We have power redundancy. So we are on dual underground power grids. We are on the same power grid as the federal penal system, and the second one is the same one as the federal gold reserve. So likely, let's put it this way. Don't ever think those two will go down. They haven't been down yet. We've not been down. And it's at 13.7 megawatts to our specific data center. Power reliability is fantastic, and as I indicated, we've had no issues, and we're top priority for CenterPoint because of that. We do have emergency diesel generators on the roof. Never had to use them, but they are there specifically if those two grids go down. And that's about it. So that you get, the thing I want to emphasize here is this is a huge investment in infrastructure. The redundancies and infrastructure that goes into it, and you benefit by it by having your server in the cloud. So we're going to go ahead and take some questions and answers here. I'll be turning off the recording. And if you got any specific questions in regards to your business and how this can affect it, we'll take those at this time. And thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.